Saddiq Bey is absolutely going off for the Detroit Pistons. Saddiq is coming off a game recently against the Orlando Magic where he put up an incredible 51 points on efficient shooting as well. And overall, Saddiq is having somewhat of a breakout season this year. But quickly before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content. And if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
Saddiq Bey was drafted with the number 19 overall selection in the 2020 NBA draft, and the general consensus about Saddiq going into that year's draft was he was a really good catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, while also having the potential to expand his offensive game beyond that. And in terms of his defensive ability, Saddiq was seen as a pretty good individual defender as well as a pretty good team defender as well. And in Saddiq's rookie season, he put up some pretty solid numbers, especially considering where he was drafted in that year's draft. In his rookie year, he put up 12 points per game on 40% shooting, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.4 assists. And in his rookie season, he was not only showing all the abilities that he was advertised to have, but he was also showing a lot more. Saddiq was doing a phenomenal job at spreading the floor and hitting that catch-and-shoot three-point jump shot, as on the season in his rookie year, he was shooting around 38% from deep, which is certainly a very good percentage, especially for a rookie early on into their young NBA career. But offensively, Saddiq was showing a lot more than just being a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. He was showing a nice ability to put the ball on the floor at times, in terms of crossing over into a three-point jump shot, sidestep, and step back, had a pretty nice pull-up mid-range jump shot as well, had a nice touch around the basket in terms of finishing with either hand, left or right, had a pretty nice post game as well, which is something that's overlooked. He has great footwork once around the basket and has a really nice post turnaround fadeaway within his game, which is a little unique based on his size and position. And overall, Saddiq was just showing a lot more in his rookie season than a lot of people thought. But although Saddiq was very impressive in his rookie year, he was nowhere near a polished offensive player at that point, of course. And after Saddiq's really good rookie season, he clearly put a ton of work on his offensive game specifically during the offseason, because this year it's pretty clear that his offensive game is a lot more refined and just better overall than it was during his rookie season. Saddiq did a nice job at bringing his numbers up across the board, and this season he's averaging around 17 points per game on 40% shooting from the field, 5.8 rebounds, and also adding 2.9 assists to his game as well. Now, of course, his overall minutes are up this season, about 6 or 7 minutes compared to last year, which would help him get better statistics overall. But even besides the statistics, when you watch Saddiq out there on the court this year, it's pretty clear that his game is just more refined overall compared to what it was last year. And the biggest improvement that I've seen from Saddiq, at least in my opinion, is the ability to really put the ball on the floor and create for himself a little bit more than he could last year. Of course, especially now playing with Cade Cunningham as their main point guard, Saddiq is going to get a ton of opportunities for those catch and shoot three-point shots, and a lot of them are honestly going to be pretty open based upon the fact that he is playing with Cade, which is certainly a good thing, and we've certainly seen that a lot from Saddiq this year. But even when Cade is not on the court or just Saddiq has the ball in his hands, he's showing a great ability to create for himself as well, especially with that post turnaround fadeaway that I mentioned before in the video. He does a very good job, and not only getting clean looks from that area, but also hitting a high percentage of them as well. And once driving all the way to the basket, Saddiq just looks like a better finisher, to me at least, this season compared to last. He looks like a better mid-range shooter overall to me personally. He's doing a fantastic job at playing not only great individual defense, but also playing really good team defense, which is certainly something that teams saw for him going into the draft. But of course, he's still doing a phenomenal job even at the next level. Saddiq, of course, isn't necessarily a good passer and playmaker, and he doesn't need to be, especially when you have Cade on your team. But this season, Saddiq is doing a pretty good job at finding the open guy when there's one for a wide open catch and shoot three-point shot, or maybe driving all the way to the basket, or especially at times if Saddiq is getting doubled or triple teamed, he's shown the ability to find that open guy, which is something you want everybody on your team to be able to do. Of course, you don't necessarily need everyone on your team to be good passers and playmakers, but you want everybody on your team to be able to find the wide open guy, and Saddiq has clearly proven the ability to do so, and more so as well. But overall, I just think the ability that Saddiq is showing so early on into his young NBA career, just 2 seasons in so far, not even, I think is much better than a lot of people thought going into the draft, and I think it's pretty clear that Saddiq Bey is going to be a part of the Pistons' long-term future and long-term core. But what are my personal expectations for Saddiq Bey long term. So based upon the hard work that Saddiq has clearly put into his game during the offseason from year 1 to year 2, and the improvements that we've seen from year 1 to year 2, I would have no reason to believe that Saddiq wouldn't continue to improve his overall game as the seasons progress. So of course, more so than anything else, I would expect Saddiq to continuously improve his game, specifically build upon certain aspects of his offensive game, continue to improve his 3-point jump shot, which already at this point is very good, continue to improve his mid-range jump shot, continue to improve his overall ball handling ability, just be able to create for himself a little bit more as the seasons progress, and do all this while also shooting pretty efficiently as well. And just to simply put it, I would expect Saddiq to refine his game further as the seasons progress as well. Now, I don't necessarily know how good Saddiq could potentially get in the next few seasons because he's already exceeded expectations pretty significantly, but I would say my overall long-term expectations for Saddiq would be to get to a level where he's just under or maybe even a low-level all-star type guy. If he can average around 17, 18, 19, maybe even 20 points per game on relatively efficient shooting, I would say that would be a wild success based upon where he was drafted and what his expectations were going into the draft. But honestly, based upon how well Saddiq has been playing into his young NBA career, I think my personal expectations for him long-term would be just that, to average anywhere from 17 to 20 points per game for a decent chunk of his NBA career, and also shooting relatively efficient shooting as well, and basically just be a fringe all-star or maybe just below an all-star type player. But now let's move on to the Pistons as a whole. What are my personal expectations for them long-term? So it's pretty clear at this point that the Pistons are in a rebuild centered around Cade Cunningham, while also having Saddiq Bey in that young core of guys that they have, but they also have some other nice young players in their young core as well. They have Isaiah Stewart, who I personally like his game going forward as well, Killian Hayes, who hasn't necessarily shown all that much ever since getting into the NBA, but going into the NBA draft, I personally thought he was a talented player, and he still is very young and could turn things around, of course. They have Jeremy Grant as well, who I don't necessarily know if he's going to be a part of the Detroit Pistons long term. I personally don't think he will be, but of course he's a pretty talented guy as well at this point. But it still is pretty clear, in my opinion at least, that the Pistons are early on into the rebuild, and they clearly have a ton more work to do long term. But in my opinion, for the Pistons to be successful long term, the main thing that they need to do is draft effectively, and specifically draft players that would work well with their main guy in Cade Cunningham, because in my opinion, I think they struck gold with Cade. But if the Pistons are able to draft effectively long term, maybe get another 2 or 3 guys that would be main parts of their young core, as well as signing some good players in free agency that would complement Cade's game long term, I think the Pistons would have a really bright future. Because the main thing that the Pistons really needed to do first was find that cornerstone piece, and in my opinion, in Cade, I think they found that. But now the next goal would be to find some other star players, probably through the NBA draft, while also maybe finding some players during free agency that might be young players and might turn into stars for you, and overall just building a nice young core long term. And in my opinion, I personally think they'll be able to do so, but we'll see what happens going forward for the Pistons. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Detroit Pistons and Saddiq Bey have a good future going forward, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Hope you can't go wrong.